How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be working on fixing an oil leak on my 2003 Saab 9.3, and I believe it is coming from the power steering pump. So I ordered this power steering O-ring kit from Saab parts. It comes with a bunch of different gaskets and O-rings that we'll be replacing throughout this video today. I think there's about 5 different ones in here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the process of how I'm going to be changing all of these out. But before I do that, I want to show you guys a couple things that I picked up for the Turbo X. The first one being in this box. If you saw my Instagram post, you already know what this is, but I finally picked up an upgraded turbo for this car. So this is very similar to a 19T. It's basically like an upgraded 19T. So I bought this from my buddy Brennan. He's going to be selling them. I'll link his YouTube channel down below, but he's going to be rebuilding and selling turbos. But this is basically a 19T, like I said, but it has a billet compressor wheel, so it's much lighter than the other wheel, 11 blades. And then on the back side here, it has a 9-blade turbine wheel, so it's a lot lighter and it's better for power throughout the RPM range. It's going to be less restrictive. So I'm excited. I might try and install that this weekend, which is probably when you'll be seeing this video. One other small thing I do want to mention, I posted about the turbo, and my buddy actually had some big injectors that he took out of a Turbo X that he used to have. He said I could have them for free, so very generous of him, of course, but I'm only mentioning this right now because if you look, this one has an O-ring up here, and this one and the other 4 in this bag do not have O-rings up here. They all have O-rings on the bottom, but not on the top. So if anyone knows why that is, obviously I assume they were all supposed to have O-rings, and I don't see a part number on here anywhere. I looked pretty thoroughly at them. There's no part number, but they're 875cc injectors, so they're pretty big, as you know, you can see on the bag. But yeah, so I guess that's my question. If anyone knows why, or if there's supposed to be O-rings there, I guess. But with that being said, let's get into the video. So first thing I'm going to remove is this hose right here. And I put a rag down there, as you can probably see, because some fluid's going to come out. And then I'm going to try and like suspend the hose so that way more stuff doesn't come out. And if you're not stupid like me and you don't have a 2003, then you won't even have to worry about the secondary air intake or injection being in your way. And you'll have a lot more visibility to see that. But of course it's sitting right in the way, so you know, makes for perfect filming. Prop it up right back there behind the secondary air injection, so it did come in useful. I don't have to zip tie it. So now with that out of the way, we need to remove this little electrical connector here. Turns out it just pulls right off, so pretty simple. Now we're going to remove, I believe this is a return line right here. It is a 19 millimeter. Should only have this 13 millimeter. I am going to readjust this towel just because when I remove the pump from, I guess, the engine block, don't want a ton more to come out. So I'm try and reposition this towel a little bit. And it is really coming out of this hose down here, so you might want to watch for that, where that hose was connected to. It's just kind of steadily coming out from that. So there's another 13 millimeter. If you come around the back side here and you look down in there, you can kind of see the end of it, and you kind of just have to blindly get the socket on there. But I'm going to remove that one next, and then I think we should be able to take the pump out. So since I've never done this before, I have no idea if a bunch of fluid is going to pour out when I pull this pump off. So with that being said, I'm going to give you guys a funny third-person view, I guess, of me pulling this off and going quickly over to the workbench to avoid power steering fluid getting everywhere. And I hope the secondary air injection is not in the way. I don't think it will be, but of course it's going to kind of be in the way. Alright. There we go. Well, this is why we have simple green. Tilted it to one side just a little bit, and it's now pouring out everywhere, and that's why I'm also glad I put a towel down over here. So we've got 5 different things that come in this kit. Each of them is thankfully nicely labeled. We're going to be putting all of them on right here, with the exception of this one. We'll put that on later. This one is just this little like thing for the banjo bolt here. So the easiest one of these to replace is going to be the O-ring cap. There's still a lot of fluid in here, unfortunately. I guess I should probably go dump the rest of that out real quick, actually, just to make this less messy. This is clearly not the color power steering fluid's supposed to be, as far as I'm aware, because this essentially looks like oil, and there's a lot in this reservoir and pump, a lot more than I would have thought, considering how much already leaked out. Good thing I bought more. This stuff's expensive. It's like $30 for a quart of it. Just when I thought it was all out, turns out to be a lot more. Do I dare turn it upside down? Oh yeah, good idea. Now that all of that is cleaned up, let me go ahead and start by removing the metal O-ring that's all bent. This is one of the aftermarket parts that comes with this kit, which is, I'm assuming, an improvement over stock. Just kind of push that in around there. I'm going to use one of these pry tools, just make sure it's on there the whole way. You can hear a 9.5 arriving home in the background. I'm also going to clean up this pump just in general on the outside here, because it was dirty before, but now it's just extremely filthy. The next thing I think I'll do is this inner, I think it's the inner shaft seal is what it's called, this big fat O-ring here. This one might be a little bit of a pain to get out.
A few moments later.
So I tried for about 3 minutes to get the camera to focus on this O-ring, and for whatever reason it refuses to, but this O-ring is pretty mangled. Took me about 5 minutes to get out, to the point where I just said I'm going to stop recording and wasting storage on my camera. So next, let's go ahead and take out this one, which should be easier to say the least. Just kind of pops right off there, and that's nice and clean under there. Good to see. Now I'm going to wipe down both of these surfaces. I'll take a Scotch-Brite to them too, but I'm just going to mainly just wipe them down, make sure they're clean and they're all ready to go back on the car. So admittedly, I did try to clean this up on the outside here a little bit, but it's so filthy. I cleaned it up a bit, but it's really going to take more time than I'm willing to spend to make it look nice. And it just being dirty on the outside doesn't affect anything, so sorry, but it's going to stay dirty like that. But the inside is clean, and that's the part that matters. Now for this O-ring, there's on one side it's kind of like cut out. That side's going to face in. Someone's going to say I shouldn't put it on this way, but with such small amount of force that I'm hitting it with, it's literally not going to damage anything. And it's so tight, it's just about impossible to push in with your fingers. So next is this one, much easier to put on, thankfully. It is slightly different than the OEM one. It has this one has almost like a little bubble in it or something, whereas this one is just completely flat. Again, some of these parts are aftermarket because they're supposed to be better. The last one here is right in the middle between the pump and the reservoir, so we're going to have to pull these apart, unfortunately, so I'm going to figure out how to do that real quick. The way to get these two apart is there's two of these weird little clips here. Now, if you lift up on the part in the middle and slide it forward a little bit, you'll get that tab over this little stopper right here, and then you can kind of stick a flathead in here and push it off further. I can't really do it with one hand, but it's actually fairly simple, and then of course there's one on each side. So I've got this pried up. I popped it loose. I'm just going to slide off. I'm going to try not to have it fly off the table again to where I lose it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think it's probably safe to say that this was bad right here. I mean, look, jeez. Look at all of that shit right there. So I guess maybe I should try to clean this at least a little bit. This is all just caked on here. And look at that. That O-ring just kind of comes right out nice and easily, thankfully. Then we have our last new part right here. If these weren't labeled, I could figure it out, but there's a couple of these that are very similar, so thankfully they're all labeled with part numbers on them and everything. But there we go. So I put the top clip about halfway on, and it kind of doesn't want to stay or go together the whole way. I guess it's just how the O-ring is it's so tight in there. So I'm kind of, I've got them both on about halfway now. But it's definitely a tight fit, which is a good thing. Okay, that actually worked perfectly. Just a small little hammer just hitting on the end of it. Of course, very carefully. There we go, I just felt it kind of fully go into place. So before we put it back on the car, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up now a little bit. I'm going to replace this because it just kind of slides off. The new one will just slide on, so that's extremely simple, and then we'll put it back on the car. When I put this back in, I'm going to try and feed this bottom 13mm in as I put it back on, just because it'll make my job a lot easier when it comes to loosening it. Oh, I just kind of stuck it in there and got lucky. If you look from the back of the motor, you kind of look forward at it, you can kind of see it. Alright, that's on there tight. Now for something easy, actual connector just kind of snaps on there. This just kind of slips on over here like this. Almost done. Now we just need to reconnect that hose. So like I said, the system takes about a quart to be completely full, but I don't think we lost all of the fluid. We lost everything in the reservoir, which was definitely not a quart, but there's definitely a lot in there. This is not the Saab OEM stuff. This is just what I got at AutoZone. I've used it before, haven't had any problems. It is the CHF11S from Pentosin. I don't know where the emphasis goes on that word. But yeah, that is green when I poured it out. So definitely leaking if it looked exactly like oil when everything was dumping out earlier. So proof is in the pudding. But yeah, with that being said, that's how you replace all those gaskets for that power steering kit. Probably not the most direct or informative video, but nonetheless, the job is done. With that being said, that's it for today. I'll see y'all next time.